How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the deep dive. This is a brand new series that I have created that is going to be a lot more laid back. I'm going to run you through some information, some news, and I want to hear from you guys. If there's any bits, any interesting articles, anything that you found, maybe something you would just want to have a chat about, drop it in the comment section below and we might talk about it on the next episode. So I do encourage you, drop your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. And if there's anything you genuinely want to talk about or want to break down, drop it in the comment section below and we'll probably end up picking it up on the next episode. So first up, I really wanted to talk about, there's a couple things that have been on my mind. There's a couple of things that, I've seen in articles, which I thought was pretty interesting. And I just wanted to have a little breakdown, give you guys a bit of information, and just talk a bit about rugby, right? So first up, if you guys haven't seen, there is the Six Nations fixtures list. They have been announced. It's pretty interesting. I'm really excited by the likes of the first of just the schedule is ridiculous. They are going to be changing the initial day from Friday, starting the starting date for Friday. They've now changed it to Thursday, and that will be Thursday, February 5th, and that's going to be France versus Ireland kickoff, and that's going to be a ridiculous, ridiculous game. Ultimately, that was the game that decided the Six Nations. This year, but the 2025 Six Nations. I truly do feel that that was the deciding game, which really, really kicked on France to end up winning the Six Nations, and deservedly so. But there's going to be some serious games here. All of the teams are coming back. We are seeing a player like Sione Tuipulotu, who is coming back from injury. That is a big, big boost. We are going to be seeing Faye Boso come back from injury. We are going to be seeing a lot of players come back from injury. Ty Furlong, he was injured for most of the Six Nations. He's probably going to end up kicking on and just destroying a couple of heads. Dan Sheehan, he's just getting better. Andrew Porter, he's just getting better. Will Stewart, he's getting better. Pollock, he's getting better. And it's like, wow. Ben Spencer, he's getting better. Hugh Jones is getting better. All of these players are going to be primed and ready for the next year. So I think this is going to be an interesting shout. And honestly, I do feel this is going to be England's real shot. They have the talent. I'm still a bit unsure about Borthwick, but I do still feel ultimately he is the right person to lead the line right now as we speak. I wouldn't want to see him lose the job and then derail everything that was worked on. The placement of Maro Itoje, having some serious players come up. We're seeing the development of the backs being a little bit more Saints oriented, but they all play for the same team. Same thing with like the forwards. A lot of them are from the Saracens, so it's having those combinations, it's having those link ups that are going to be key, because ultimately these are players that are going to end up playing with each other day in, day out. They know each other, they know who works, who doesn't, where this person's going to be, where this person isn't. So it's going to be interesting to see how these teams line up for next year, who's going to get injured, who's not. But definitely having it start on a Thursday, it does have some implications. First of all, it's odd, having it on a Thursday instead of a Friday. But what this also does do with the changes that's happened, we're only going to be seeing one fallow week instead of two. And I did say it in my previous video, you can check it out. It's a change. It really, really is a change, because as a fan, it's brilliant. As a spectator, it's brilliant. You get to see more rugby. You don't need to wait as much. You're not twiddling your thumbs between the weeks, wondering what the hell's going to happen. You are actually getting some serious time. And there's only one fallow week, so there's only one point where you're actually waiting a couple of weeks for content. But it's just going to be interesting to see how these teams are going to end up handling that, right? Because that's not easy. You think of it from a player's mind, right? First of all, that's an additional week that you have less rest. That's another week that you have less time to prepare for your opponents, less time to recover and heal from any small injuries and things like that. Because you got to think, as a rugby player, this isn't football, right? All of these players, I don't care whether it's a forward, whether it's a back, all of them are coming in with some form of injury, some form of muscle being uncomfortable. It's the nature of the sport, and I do feel that it's always a risk game when it comes to this, which is why the Saints really haven't put Furbank in too much. They played him, they started him in one game. He had his shield on. He ended up scoring a try. He ended up getting taken. They resting. They're waiting for things to happen, right? Anything's possible. So it's just a thing of management on the squad. You want to play your best squad as much as possible while still giving your fringe players playtime, whilst resting your players for upcoming important games, whilst also juggling the game limit, right? The cap limit, and it's like you constantly juggling there's this thing of playtime, and then when you don't play this player, people get upset, and then when you do play him and maybe they play horribly, they're like, oh, it's because you didn't play them that this happened, and blah 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 blah. There's always just like this constant fight between fans and clubs, right? So it's a difficult position to be in as a coach. You're in the spotlight. You make one mistake, make a wrong mistake, poof, done. Your head is on the chopping block. I mean, you look at Leo Cullen, for instance. Leo Cullen, his head has been on the chopping block ever since they lost to the Saints, and it's because people are getting frustrated because the Leinster haven't really won much in the past couple of years. They have a really big wage bill. They've got really big players on their bills, but they aren't producing trophies, right? And the one thing that you want as a club is you want to be winning trophies. Look at this going into the URC, into the playoffs. They are not playing well. The match between Leinster and Glasgow, it was toothless. It was boring. It was a defensive masterclass. Don't get me wrong. But you put that up against a team like the Bulls that are very physical. They're physically imposing. They're heavy on the scrums. You know, they have that presence and they are very powerful when attacking. I don't care how good you are defensively, they are eventually going to end up breaking you down. So it comes down to, can you stop them from doing it? Now, normally, the old Leinster, the Leinster from the first half of the season, I would say yes, no problem, 100%. But as of now, I'm not that confident. I'm really not that confident in being able to say that. So it's just, I don't know. It's difficult. It really, really is difficult. But I just feel Leinster are going to need to be doing something that keeps them on track, right? And like I say, sometimes it is just simple things. And honestly, I feel if Leo Cullen is to lose the URC, I can't see him staying for too much longer. I really can't. But I digress, and I've probably gone through like multiple different stories in that one. But yeah, I don't know. The Six Nations schedule is going to be fantastic. We're going to be seeing amazing teams, amazing players, players that are just getting better as well. And then yeah, I'm really just hoping for um, an amazing URC final, Gallagher Premiership final, whatever it is. Champions Cup final is going to be amazing between Northampton Saints and Bordeaux. Again, I have made a video in relation to it, so if you do want to have a full breakdown, check that out. But I do want to touch on it ever so briefly because um, we are seeing some news come out. Honestly, I'm really excited for it. It's happening this weekend. This is going to be a fun time to be a Saints fan, or it's either going to be a really, really fun time or a really, really horrible time. Um, Personally, I'm really hoping for a Saints win, coming off of the performances that they've had, coming off of the Saracens win that they've just had. I think they are coming in to brilliant form exactly when they are needed. This is the exact same thing that I said about the Bulls, finding good form back into the season, considering the kind of tournaments that they're in, considering the kind of tournaments like the Premiership is, the Champions Cup, that kind of knockout style. It's going to be interesting because Bordeaux are fierce team, but Saints just have that thing about them. It's like this David and Goliath, where everybody expects Bordeaux to just run rampant, and that's what everybody thought about Leinster. And what ended up happening? They ran them riot, and it was a brilliant game. Nonetheless, it was a brilliant game, and ultimately the Saints came through with a win. I just feel like this is one of these fairy tale stories where we are going to end up seeing the Saints lift the Champions Cup trophy and really put a mark and then set this up for next year where, yes, we are seeing players like Maya Vanua leave, Juan Augustus, also known as Trocky, he's going to be leaving. Yes, the Saints are going to be losing some big players, but they're also signing some pretty big players as well. I mean, my most interested, I can say, that I'm in is Simone Ferrari. We saw how he played in the Six Nations. The guy is just pure fire. So seeing him join the Saints next year, that is going to be really interesting. That's just going to add to that forward power and that scrum as well. So it's going to be lovely to see him. And honestly, I'm really hoping for the best. I'm hoping for a Saints win, but most of all, I just want a brilliant game. I don't want a team that is going to be defending against each other and waiting for each other to make mistakes. I want to be seeing both teams going gung ho, ridiculous, all guns blazing. I want to see them going out, fighting, getting into conflicts. I just want to see a spectacle, which is what this final deserves. Everybody expected Leinster to lose. Everybody before this, like, oh, why do we even need this tournament? Can't we just have the final now and watch the game? No, because this is why the tournaments are here, for games like this, the games that you don't expect, the games where you have the underdogs come through, put in the performances, knock the favorites out, and show everybody why rugby is rugby. Anything is possible. These are all elite level teams, and anything is possible. So yeah, that's going to be really fun. Moving on into Wales. Now, this one I was a little bit back and forth about because looking at the article, I don't know, it just feels like Ospreys. Yeah, I think it was the Ospreys and Scarlets. They wanted a bit more assurance because basically the WRU has said they are going to be ditching the four club model and that they are going to be working towards a resolution and they are going to be speaking with all the teams, all the four teams, and blah 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 blah. Dragons and Cardiff, they signed, I think they call it a PRA 25, but which that pretty much allowed the WRU to take over. But the Ospreys and the Scarlets, they had genuine concerns. They wanted to know that everything is not going to be skewed and it's not going to disproportionately benefit the other teams, the teams that are not independent. And they are just pretty much saying that the things were not signed by the deadline set and they've made the necessary decisions. But ultimately, I just feel like they were going around the same loop over and over again instead of actually giving the assurances that the Scarlets that that the Scarlets and the Ospreys genuinely wanted. You know, Rugby is not an easy sport to be in. Rugby is not an easy sport to own a club in. We've seen teams like the Wasps, dissolve, and they've only now come back, and they're coming back. I doubt they're going to be coming back into the Premiership, but with the likes of the Division One in the Premiership now being changed um, into a more French style promotion relegation system, we could potentially be seeing the Wasps back in the Premiership. But these are things that are going to be changing. on how Wales is going to see themselves, how they are going to develop, how they're going to run their teams, how they're going to run their nation. So it's going to be interesting. They are saying, "Oh, we're looking at the broader spectrum of the finances and the strategic needs of the game," and I just feel that this is a whole bunch of politic bullshit that is just there to be said, to be on paper, on the news, to make a headline, and they aren't actually doing what is needed. They're making themselves public to the media to say, to give a basic excuse, but when they actually asking a direct question, you're not getting a direct answer. They're beating around the bush. So here we go. WRU Chief Executive Abby Tierney said, "We are continuing to talk to all four clubs about what the future will hold. We recognize this will be a time of uncertainty and are committed to treating all the clubs, players, and supporters with respect and fairness throughout the process." The list just goes on. I'm going to add the article down below, but it's just I just feel it's not giving them the assurances that they want, And then again, here in a joint statement, Ospreys and Scholars expressed concern and disappointment at the WRE's position, calling for more clarity and detail, which allows for continued growth. This U-turn has created more destabilizing and debilitating uncertainty in our game, with a pertinent question being asked by stakeholders across our clubs and within our communities regarding the future framework and landscape for professional rugby in Wales. Statement from the clubs read. We are key contributors to the success of Welsh rugby, and we remain committed to working constructively and collaboratively with the WRU to find solutions that support the game across the country and ensure a level playing field for all. So, I don't know. We are going to end up getting down to this later. We are going to find more news, but they are still going to be speaking with them up until 2027. But we are going to be seeing a big change happen in Wales. It's just going to come down to how it's going to affect the national team, how it's going to affect the growth, the grassroots levels. I don't know. You'll see. But interesting nonetheless. Interesting nonetheless. And then to end everything off on this little chat, we can say, is a bit of rugby news, but not rugby related, or not rugby related, but from a rugby player. I don't know, but you guys might have heard of Rayno Nels. He's a former Cheetahs. He was a former Cheetahs player, and he has actually just become the first African man to win the World's Strongest Man event. And like, I don't know if any of you guys follow the World's Strongest Man event, but you have people that are just ridiculous. Like, you have um, uh, Eddie Hall, which is just an absolute monster. He's a legend of the sport. But there are a lot of people there that are ridiculously strong. Like the Stoltman brothers. If you guys haven't seen them, Google them. The Stoltman brothers are massive, and they are like the next generation. And then this guy comes in, he's picked up a whole bunch of weight. He's like almost 150 kilos and 30 years old. He's a rookie in the game. He's a rookie. I think this is like his first ever World's Strongest Man, and he goes and wins it. Like, that is ridiculous. That doesn't happen, because you got to think, these are strongmen. They've been strongmen for a very, very long time. The training, the techniques, the eating habits, everything. Right? There's special techniques. There's ways to handle events, because a lot of these events are one straight after each other. It's not like, oh, I'm going to have this day and then that day, and then no, they'll put you through a couple events a day, and then you kind of have to work yourself through over a couple of days, and that's not easy. You don't really get any recovery. The things that they are lifting up is ridiculous. So that is a big, big feat. A big feat for South Africa. I'm actually quite proud that a South African actually won the World's Strongest Man event, because you don't often tend to see that, and this is the first time that's ever happened for a rookie to win the event since 1997. So that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. I mean, you look at men like Brian Shaw, which is just monsters, absolute monsters. Um, Brian Shaw is a big one. He's actually like one of the best strongmen ever to live. Um, Google him, Google him. But yeah, Rain O'Nell's 150 kilos. He won the world's strongest man. So that's it, guys. Enjoy. Have a lovely evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you guys are. And catch you guys in the next one. Bye.